Jim, let's start with you. I'd love for you to give us your input on what happened in Iowa last night and what's your takeaway as it pertains to a potential Trump-Biden matchup in the fall.
Well, look, I think a couple of things are really interesting. First, Joe, like this enthusiasm number for the Republicans, 14% total turnout of Republican voters in Iowa, I think is a really startling number. I think if I was the team Trump, I would be worried about this. He was supposed to be this guy that motivated everyone. The second is like DeSantis's performance was ridiculous. I was talking to a Republican operative who reminded me that DeSantis went to all 99 counties, and every time he did, he ended up sliding in those counties. He did worse in the counties as they saw him more. The more they were exposed to him, the worse he did. You and I have talked about this in the past. This is a guy who just isn't ready for prime time. And now what's the rationale for his candidacy? Like, what do people now believe? He was supposed to be the Trump alternative. And the truth is, the more people see that alternative, the less they want him. On to the general election.
And Jim, yep. Can I really quickly, before you get to the general election, can I say now, and again, Donald Trump could not have paid for a better result last night if you look at Haley splitting. But you are right. A low turnout, not a lot of enthusiasm for Republicans. A third of Republicans saying they loathe Donald Trump in the polls. He doesn't get half of the Republican vote. This is no huge vote of confidence for Donald Trump, but the way DeSantis and Haley chopped each other's support in half, very good for Donald Trump. Now Nikki Haley goes to New Hampshire, probably overperforms there. You've got Ron DeSantis. He's going down to South Carolina. And what is Ron DeSantis going to be doing in South Carolina? He's going to camp out there for a month. And he's going to go and campaign on vets and military issues, which, of course, will gut any support that Nikki Haley may have had with those groups. So we're going to probably see a repeat in South Carolina of these two cutting each other in half and Donald Trump just gliding through.
Oh, I think you're exactly right. What the Republicans desperately needed from last night was an alternative to Donald Trump, and they just didn't get it. For the second cycle in a row, 2016, they tried to make it a choice between Trump and someone else. They couldn't do it. Now, Joe's exactly right. They can't do it now. They're going to go into South Carolina, into Super Tuesday, seeing the anti-Donald Trump vote split, and Trump's going to walk into this nomination. I mean, what I learned last night, Joe, is that we could just stop pretending Donald Trump's not going to be the Republican nominee for president. He is. Yep. I think it's depressing. It is what it is. But we now can start the general election. That's what last night taught me.
So we're going to go live to Des Moines in just a second. Also, by the way, to New Hampshire, which is 1 week from today. Claire McCaskill, though, first, want to get your take on what you saw last night. Not a big surprise. Donald Trump won by about the margin that most people expected. Low turnout. And as we've been saying all morning, almost half of Republican voters voted for someone other than Donald Trump last night, which is pretty stunning statistic when you consider he was president of the United States and sort of a de facto incumbent in some ways here in the party. What are your takeaways from the result last night?
Well, first of all, 50-50 for an incumbent really sucks. This is not good for Donald Trump. I don't care how they spin it. I get it that he won more delegates than the other candidates, but he got 50% of the vote in his own party after being an incumbent president. As you guys have said, that's not good. And then think about the money that was spent and how much of it was spent on negative ads. $70 million was spent by DeSantis and Haley, only $11 million by Trump. Of that, all that money, most of it was negative ads against DeSantis and Haley. No negative ads against Trump. I mean, there was no negative ads against Trump, and he still only managed 50% of the vote. Can you imagine having an election where your opponents refuse to run a negative ad on you? It's crazy. So this, all the Democrats need is for an aggressive campaign to make sure that our base stays together, that everyone understands what's at stake, that women of America understand what this man did to our freedom in this country, and to grab that 25 to 30% of the Republican Party that said last night very clearly, nah, I don't really want to go there. I don't believe that all this evidence in courts of law has been made up. I don't believe that he won the election. I think he's not a good idea for our country. So I don't think it was that great a night for Donald Trump. And by